Kansas City Sports Update Studios. Welcome to Kingdom Radio, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs. Brought to you by Arrowhead Update. Join Chris and Richard on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Player FM, CastBox, and all third-party applications. Check us out on Facebook platforms such as Kansas City Sports Update and Arrowhead Update. And if you cannot find us there, Google or search Kingdom Radio and Kansas City Chiefs, and you will find us. Welcome to the Kingdom.
How are we doing, Chiefs Kingdom? It is Saturday, September 21st, and we are on the eve of the home opener for the Kansas City Chiefs. Welcome to Kingdom Radio. I'm your host, Richard Smith, and with me, as always, I have my co-host and senior NFL analyst, Chris Chavez, with us. How are we doing today, Chris?
Happy Earth, Wind, and Fire Day. I'm ready for a big game tomorrow, man.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Awesome. And I couldn't be more happy to be on here talking football with you as well. First off, let's do all this promotional stuff. Thank you to our main sponsor, Pizza Shop Platte City, for everything you've done for us. And we will be back to Platte City Pizza Shop for more live podcast watch parties. Week 7 for the Broncos and Week 10 for the Titans. Be sure to enter our upcoming giveaways featuring signed memorabilia from Tony Gonzalez, Dante Hall, and Derek Thomas. Be sure to find us on Facebook and like Kingdom Radio to stay up to date with all of our live podcast events. Also, you'll find all of the new Kingdom Radio gear, which is now available for purchase, men's, women's, and children's t-shirts, as well as Kingdom Radio hoodies. Rep your favorite podcast and help us bring Chiefs Kingdom even more awesome content and analysis. You can view and purchase by searching our link, kingdomradio.itemorder.com/sale. Again, that is kingdomradio.itemorder.com/sale. All right, Chiefs Kingdom. Tomorrow is absolutely the day we've been waiting for. That's right, the 2019 home opener versus the Baltimore Ravens. Patrick Mahomes and the 2-0 Chiefs will face off against Lamar Jackson, the 2-0 Ravens, and what is surely the best matchup of the weekend. And with that being said, hey, we've got a lot of football talk today. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to move right into the Around the NFL, get some of those things out of the way because, hey, I think we all know, and Chris will agree, we want to talk Chiefs, but we got to kind of talk about the NFL as well. So let's touch base on Around the NFL.
This is Around the NFL, brought to you by Pizza Shop Platte City. Go grab yourself a butcher block. Best meat lovers in Kansas City. Pizza Shop Platte City, proud sponsor of Kingdom Radio.
All right, this is the Around the NFL segment brought to you by Pizza Shop Platte City. Go in there and get yourself a butcher's block, the best meat lovers in Kansas City. And with that being said, hey, we're going to talk about some things around the NFL here. First up on the Around the NFL, we're going to do a quick recap of the Thursday night matchup. The Jaguars defeated Tennessee Titans 20-7 in Jacksonville. Backup QB Gardner Minshew, which we're going to touch base on here in a second, impressively completed 20 of 30 pass attempts for 204 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Saxonville defense was dominant, registering 9 sacks, 3 of which by Calais Campbell, Jalen Ramsey. 3 of which by Calais Campbell. Jalen Ramsey suited up for the Jags Thursday despite requesting a trade earlier in the week. The Chiefs have been connected to Ramsey in these trade rumors. However, it appears he might be staying put in Jacksonville for the time being. Jaguars owner Shad Khan came out yesterday and said he was willing to make Ramsey the highest paid cornerback in the league. This appears to be put a bit of a wet blanket on the trade talks and makes you wonder where GM Tom Coughlin stands and on the situation and if there's a connection between ownership and GM. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about Antonio Brown a little bit, and then Chris, I'm going to let you hop on here because, you know, the connection between Kansas City and Jalen Ramsey was directly connected to the New England Patriots Antonio Brown signing. But with that being said, Chris, go ahead and tell everybody what happened to Antonio Brown yesterday in the New England Patriots, which absolutely made life a little bit easier in Chiefs Kingdom.
So the wide receiver that I care not to mention got released by the Patriots due to the plethora of off-field antics and actions on his part. I believe the final dagger was his inappropriate and threatening messages that he had sent to not only the trainer who is currently alleging that sexual harassment and inappropriate activities, but also I want to say it's an artist who was painting him, and there was some weird stuff going on there. Not exactly sure of that entire backstory, but the weird thing is that wide receiver made these comments in a group chat with his own lawyer involved in the group chat.
Oh, wow. So what I have in front of me, obviously Antonio Brown was released from the New England Patriots Friday, happening within 24 hours of a report that Antonio Brown sent harassing texts to a woman who was hired to paint a mural inside of Brown's home while still a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. These harassing texts were sent while a member of the Patriots. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, so now that Brown has been released, the NFL can take its time to investigate the matter fully without the pressure of making a decision hastily before game day. And, let's keep it real, Chris. It looks highly unlikely that Brown will suit up for another team this season. And there's currently no guarantee he plays again in the NFL, especially if these allegations are true. However, if these allegations are false, then there has to be at least one team that would take a chance on Brown's extreme talent. And, we're talking about a guy who has 841 receptions for 11,263 yards and 75 touchdowns over his 10-year career. But that's no excuse for the behavior outside of football. Am I correct?
Yeah, not at all. There's no on-field production that would justify bringing in a guy with that laundry list of off-field behaviors. If it had been like one thing, okay, I could see a justification for it. But you're looking at three. Well, depending on how you look at the Raiders situation, you could be looking at 4 or 5 different things off the field. But 2 things for sure, where you're now looking at a repeated behavior, that's a problem.
Yes, absolutely, and it's turning into a pattern. And with the NFL and their strict policy on all of those things, I can understand messing up once. Nobody's perfect, but if you continuously, mess up, say the wrong thing, lack integrity, the NFL is absolutely going to take note of that and come down on you, whether it be taking your career all the way away from you, or sitting on the bench for the entire season. We don't know what's going to be handed down to Antonio Brown because we're not even sure exactly what all is going on with that. But I will say this. It's not pretty, and we might not see Antonio Brown on an NFL field ever again. So, with that being said, hey, I'm sure we'll touch base on Antonio Brown here later in the segment because that's a huge deal for the Chiefs. We were looking at some defensive backs solely for the purpose of the Patriots signing a player like Antonio Brown. But with that being said, I don't want to talk too much about it. We're going to move on to our next segment.
This is the No Look Pass, brought to you by Sean and Keogh Music Solutions, providing everything from simple background audio to complex creative audio pieces. Bring your project to life with Sean and Keogh Music Solutions.
All right, this is the No Look Pass, brought to you by Sean and Keogh Music Solutions. That is our premier audio content business. We could not be more happy with what Sean and Keogh has brought to the table. And today with our No Look Pass, I'm going to let you take off with this, Chris. Throw your No Look Pass to me today. Let's see what we got.
All right. So Patrick Mahomes came into this season having just thrown for 50,000 yards and over 50 touchdowns. Won the MVP. Assuming that he has a repeat performance like that this year, and he wins a Super Bowl, and let's say that the rest of his career he never lives up to those marks, those numbers, and never wins another Super Bowl, would you say that he is a Hall of Famer?
Well, I will say this. Although I do not believe with anything in my heart and my soul that if he wins the Super Bowl this year, that will be the only one he will never get back. I don't want to put that evil on him because I think we're going to go to multiple Super Bowls. But no, he's not I don't think that he'll be a Hall of Fame candidate if he wins the Super Bowl this year and throws 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards in his first year as a quarterback. You got to prove more than that. I feel like that there's too much left on the table to give Mahomes that crown. It's just one of those things. I don't feel like a quarterback who throws 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards out of the gate will ever have a non-productive season. I mean, we're looking at a guy whose, ceiling is probably 60 touchdowns and 6,000 yards, and then his bottom level is probably like 40 touchdowns and 4,500 passing yards. So that's really hard for me to swallow that question and not want to fire back and be like, no, there's no way that'll happen. But this is a hypothetical question, and I feel like, Chris, I don't feel like that he'll deserve a Hall of Fame ballot if that's all he does in his career.
Okay, you brought something up that I also want to touch on. Mm-hmm. What if he's the first quarterback to ever throw for 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns? Would you put him in then?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So now I see what you're saying. Look, there's some progression here. We have I always get corrected when I'm like, oh, he's a rookie, because he wasn't a rookie. It was his second year. It was his first year as a starter for the Kansas City Chiefs. But yeah, 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. Then you turn around the next season, take us to a Super Bowl, win it, 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. It'd be really hard to deny the man who actually already has his jersey in the NFL Hall of Fame for the things that he's already done. And he really is breaking records left and right. It's just, I feel like, as a Chiefs fan, what Chiefs fans are due. Okay, so I guess my biggest thing, we deserve Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. We deserve Patrick Mahomes to have a long, lengthy career with multiple Super Bowl victories. So I guess it's hard for me to, in turn, look at it in a one Super Bowl instance because, Chris, let's keep it real. Through the Alex Smith era, I feel like we had a chance once or twice to get to a Super Bowl, but the way I felt about it was we might not get back there with Alex Smith ever. I don't feel that with Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's a difference, and that's why my Hall of Fame ballot for Patrick Mahomes will come later in his career because I just don't see this man stopping.
Yeah, I have to agree. The man certainly can sling the ball, and it's very exciting doing so. For me, it's going to take more than just 1 or 2 years, regardless of whether or not he gets a Super Bowl. The reason why I brought up this conversation is earlier in the week, Eli Manning got benched, and
right.
ESPN had a conversation with a lot of their reporters about whether he was or wasn't Super Bowl or Hall of Fame worthy. And the majority of the conversation revolved around, he's won 2 Super Bowls, and to me, that shouldn't matter. The number of Super Bowls shouldn't matter. You look at his stats over the course of his career, and he never finished better than 8th in the league in passing. He finished first in the league in interceptions, but he was never a top 5 quarterback. Like, I can't put him in based on those numbers. Mahomes, on the other hand, after not even the full season, after half the season last year, he was terrorizing defenses. Mm-hmm. To me, he's on path into the Hall of Fame more so than Eli Manning.
Okay, and so being a biased Chiefs fan, I would love to say that Patrick Mahomes is more deserving of a Hall of Fame ballot, and his overall career, if we look at it 10 years down the road. Now, with that being said, you brought up Eli, and I got to touch base on this a little bit. And it's not that I disagree with you. I just feel like when you look at it from a numbers aspect, that's a personal aspect. Super Bowls are a team aspect, and it takes every single person on that team to win a Super Bowl. And then on top of that, you have to keep in mind, that was a Spags-led defense that took down the Patriots twice. The only team that could take down that Patriots Super Bowl run twice in the entire era that is the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era. So, with that being said, I have a hard time saying no. Eli doesn't deserve it. I personally think he does, because let's keep it real. He matched his brother's numbers, maybe not passing, maybe not touchdowns, but they both have 2 Super Bowls. And I will say that in my mind, Eli Manning's Super Bowl victories are way more impressive than Peyton's. So hey, that's neither here nor there. That's kind of a personal opinion of mine. But I still, back to Patrick. I mean, he's going to have a Hall of Fame career regardless. I saw a tweet about Patrick Mahomes. I can't remember. I want to give the man his credit, but I can't remember who said it. But what they said was, if I had to have one pick throughout the course of history in the NFL, one overall pick ever, I'd pick Patrick Mahomes. And I can't argue with him, can you?
Absolutely not.
So, I agree with you in some ways, Chris, but in other ways, the numbers game is kind of a personal stat. The Super Bowls are a team victory. Now, granted, it takes those numbers to get to that Super Bowl. But in my mind, Eli, let's put him in there. He deserves it. I mean, I feel like he deserves it a little bit. But when we look back on the career of Patrick Mahomes, there's going to be no comparison. I feel like the only comparison there's going to be is, Tom Brady. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to surpass that.
Yeah, Brady set the bar, but I definitely feel that by the time that Mahomes' career is over, he will have surpassed that bar quite handily.
Right, and I agree with you, brother. So, hey, look, I want to ask you my no-look pass. And this goes back to the Ravens game last year. We faced Lamar Jackson last year and came out on top. And it came to that huge 4th down play with Patrick Mahomes slinging it across his body, and it was one of the best plays of the year, if not the best play of the year for the Chiefs. My question to you, Chris, do you see this game coming back down to a play like this tomorrow?
I don't. Reason being, 2 factors. One, I feel that our offense and defense are both drastically better this year.
Right.
Although we don't have Tyreek, I feel that our weapons are more complete on offense. And then the other factor that I'm also throwing in there is going to be the predicted weather.
Yes.
It's supposed to be super rainy tomorrow.
4 inches.
Sorry, go ahead.
4 inches of rain during game time.
Ooh, okay, so it's going to be kind of like the Chiefs Monday night game where Derek Thomas is sitting down in the middle of the field.
Absolutely. It's going to be exactly like that.
Yeah, this is going to really be more of a running game based game. And the Ravens have a very strong running game, a very strong offensive line. And I think that with 2 of our top running backs banged up, one of them is out of the game. And you've got the D train hitching up and getting onto the tracks and getting ready to take off from the station, man. This is going to be a really interesting, hard-fought game. I think that the Chiefs at least have the advantage because they've played in a great rain game already this season, and whereas Lamar Jackson, he hasn't.
Right. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Actually, a lot more here later in the segment. We've got a lot to discuss about the Ravens and the Chiefs. And Chris, I know that you've done a lot of digging about this game as well. It has some meaning to you, more so than others. But I have to ask you, would you assume the Chiefs' defense is going to spy Jackson instead of taking the aggressive approach towards him, since he's a scrambling quarterback? And then my question to you, which I have my answer to this, I'm excited to hear yours, is what player or which players on the Chiefs defense gets tasked with the challenge of containing Jackson?
So I've got to go with. It's going to depend on the scheme of our defense.
Okay.
When we're not blitzing, we're absolutely going to be spying him. But I feel that we're going to be blitzing him early and often, and probably more so as the game goes on. We're just going to wear down that offensive line and attack. And that's assuming that that scheme works. If blitzing doesn't work out, then I think we're going to fall back strictly to spying him. And I think that's going to probably fall on either Williams or excuse me. I think that there's a chance that we might see Darren Lee step in potentially here and see the field a little bit more. With his speed, he should be able to negate that Lamar Jackson speed, especially in the open field, a little bit more so than Hitchens would.
And he definitely has some wheels behind him. We all know Darren Lee has speed, and he's shown us a lot here in this new defensive scheme. And I do want to say one thing, excuse the background noise. Kansas City, I'm right next to I-29, and everybody all of you know how loud I-29 is. I have a hotel room, so I apologize for all this background noise. That is I-29 coming in full-fledged. So anyway, okay, so with that being said, Chris, I want to raise another point here. Okay, so I feel like my player who's going to be a spy on Jackson, and the biggest one all day, is going to be Chris Jones. And the reason why I say this is I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs should not blitz a player like Lamar Jackson as much as we would blitz, players, like Derek Carr, who we've already seen, and some of the and Tom Brady. Because here's my thing: as Lamar Jackson has wheels. You bring too much pressure on him, and you give him daylight where he can squeeze through a hole in that offensive line and get out into the open field. It's going to be extremely dangerous for the Chiefs. So I feel like our defensive line, especially Chris Jones up the middle, that is going to be our huge anchor to keep a player like Lamar Jackson in check. Because, look, if we bring those linebackers, if we bring Darren Lee, and he sheds that tackle, and then he gets outside the tackles, we're in trouble all day long. So I feel like it is the discipline between the pursuit of the quarterback, and then it's almost like special teams. Stay in your lane. Don't over-progress. Don't get out of your lane. Don't make any stupid decisions, and do not let him get through that line, because as soon as he does, that could be 6 points for the Ravens all day long.
True. But I also feel that, especially early on, if you can blitz him and not necessarily like hurt him, but put a hurting on him to the point that he's afraid to run, or potentially, he gives himself a cramp or something of that nature, where he loses the ability to run, so to speak. I think that's going to drastically change the game, and make him afraid to run on us. I mean, you play against the Dolphins. Not that I'm saying that the Dolphins can't hit, can't tackle, or anything of that nature. But you play against the Dolphins, where he only had 12 yards rushing. He plays against the Cardinals last week, has 120. What do the Cardinals have or not have that the Dolphins did? The Dolphins didn't have a secondary, so he could sit back there and throw all day long.
Right.
The Cardinals, they don't have much of anything, but they were able to keep the game close.
Yes.
I mean, the Ravens only won by one score.
Now, I can't lie to you. I can't really hold the Dolphins accountable at all for anything they're doing this season. I don't feel like they're a formidable, matchup to really kind of talk about the Ravens. It's okay. Let's be real. The Dolphins are terrible, horrible. Like I can't. There's no product the Dolphins are going to put on the field this year that's going to test anybody. So with that being said, that game is kind of nullified. Like, I mean, what can we, I mean, I'm not going to give the Ravens credit playing a team who has no shot against the Cleveland Browns. And it's
I mean, honestly, I think that the Dolphins would struggle to beat a lot of the college teams that are in the top 25 right now.
And I do too, and it kind of blows my mind, to be perfectly honest with you. All right, so look, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about Earl Thomas. How does the 3-time All-Pro safety Earl Thomas impact the Kansas City offensive game plan? Now, also keep in mind, before we really touch base on this, Patrick Mahomes has been going up against the Honey Badger all off season. So if there is anybody that can complement, or be straight across the field as far as leadership or skills, I mean, I feel like that the Honey Badger is better than Earl Thomas, but I also feel like Mahomes has seen the Honey Badger enough to where Earl Thomas won't impact the Chiefs like some might think he will.
So Earl Thomas is definitely going to make us think about throwing over on his side.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that we're going to be able to take advantage of him and expose him like we could almost any other safety. Earl Thomas is too good of a player for that.
Right.
He's been around this league a long time. I have tremendous respect for him and what he's done over the course of his career.
Right.
I'll never talk bad about that guy.
He definitely is a legend.
I think that we can probably take advantage of mismatches and maybe overloading his side, and whatever decision he makes, go with the other receiver and take advantage of that. If we overload his side, let's say we have somebody, somebody going deep, somebody on an underneath route, both of which are on his side, he's got to make a decision which guy to go with. And if he's probably going to go with the deep guy because that's, our repertoire and what everybody expects us to do, we throw underneath, then he has to come up and make a tackle.
Right.
And, if we're able to do that all day long for 15, 20 yards, 10 yards, 8 yards, I'm happy with that because that means we're moving the ball. Which
is cool. And, that'll make Patrick go through his progressions, which obviously that was kind of a setback for Mahomes. He's a big play type of guy, and sometimes he needs to go through his checkdowns and go through his progressions. And I think a player like Earl Thomas will force him to do that more so than other secondaries in the league. So, okay, with that being said, we got Earl Thomas on the defense. You respect him quite a bit for what he's done in the league and the stats and, obviously part of the Legion of Boom. And I respect that as well. The man's had a great career. Obviously, the Chiefs were looking at Earl Thomas before we even thought about the Honey Badger, which me personally, I'm glad we, got Tyron, instead of Earl Thomas. But with that being said, the last few weeks we've had some, different playmakers on the Chiefs offense. So who do you think is going to come out here and shine in this Baltimore Ravens game? Because it's been different players in multiple weeks, and heck, it could be anybody this game. So who do you think is going to be, Chris?
While I really hope that it is D-Train, I think it's going to be Kelsey. Kelsey's going to be a huge mismatch for their linebackers one-on-one. That's probably going to force them to bracket cover him, which means that they're probably going to be playing a lot of one deep safeties, which means Earl Thomas is going to be back there on an island.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think that Kelsey's going to get open and get his catches. Or let me jump back. If Kelsey's getting bracket covered, that's going to be very impactful, and that's going to allow for our wide receivers to get open, because that means that they're not getting double covered, which is what honestly the Ravens need to do to try to shut us down.
And look, and I want to say before we answer who has the biggest game on offense for the Chiefs, let's talk about the injury update a little bit, because I feel like this might change the aspect of who could be that playmaker. Because let's be honest, Andy Reid has a brilliant mind, and I feel like you take one aspect out, he's going to put another aspect in, but then he's also got to understand that the game plan has to change, just a bit, to work for the scheme he's trying to run. So, look, running back LaShawn McCoy was listed as questionable with an ankle injury, but is still expected to play Sunday. Running back Darren Williams is out after suffering a knee contusion last Sunday against the Raiders. Left tackle Eric Fisher has had a core muscle surgery Thursday and is out for Sunday. He has a 4 to 6 week recovery timetable, and also wide receiver Tyreek Hill is out and remains sidelined with a shoulder injury, but should be back sooner rather than later. Okay, so with those Chiefs sitting on the sidelines for us this week, there's going to have to be somebody who's going to pick up the ball, for the Kansas City Chiefs and really, set the tone for our offense. And obviously Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys, but who's going to be that receiver? Who's going to be that other guy? Is it going to be Kelsey? Is it going to be D-Rob? Is it going to be Hardman? Is it going to be Watkins? Like, who's going to be the man this week?
I still got to stay with Kelsey. I think that his matchups is going to be very, even if he's not making catches, his performance is going to affect the rest of the game.
Right.
And Kelsey is who the Ravens are focusing in on to try to cover and try to stop.
Right.
Because he's the constant. The receivers, you never really know who the ball's going to be getting, who the ball's going to be going to, who's going to have the big game. But Kelsey is always a consistent.
Absolutely.
And so they need to try to shut that down. That doesn't mean that we don't have two wide receivers who come out of the game with 100-yard games. But Kelsey's performance, his ability to draw that 2 or even 3-man coverage is going to help those receivers get so open.
And I agree. And I also feel like that, Kelsey typically has his bigger games against defense-savvy opponents. And there's nobody that can cover him. Safety, linebacker, I know they have Earl Thomas, but you're right. I really think it's going to be Travis Kelsey. I don't think that Earl Thomas is going to contain him. Like you said, what'd you say, they're going to be in a 3-deep set and he's going to be out there on an island?
Yeah, well, they'll probably be, I wouldn't say necessarily a 3-deep set, but they'll have a 1-deep safety.
Or 1-deep, I'm sorry, I said 3-deep. A 1-deep safety, yes. They're going to be running the quarter, the 3-4, you know what I mean? Anything that, and I was wrong on the quarter, but yeah, anything that's going to get to the quarterback. But he is going to be left on an island. Yeah,
well, and because you brought it up, the expected attack is that they're going to be bringing a lot of pressure to our left side of the offensive line due to Fisher being out.
Right.
And they're expecting for their defensive end to have a huge game, much like we kind of did with Frank Clark against Jacksonville. I give Cam Irving a little bit more credit than that. I think he's going to be able to at least hold his own somewhat, to a degree. I'm not going to say that he's going to be an absolute stud wall out there, but
right.
He'll be able to at least get in the guy's way and give Patrick enough time to release the ball and have a clean pocket. Because so they're going to be looking a lot to attack our left side. I think that's where Kelsey or even inside wide receiver is going to be able to get a lot of open space right there, or heck, even a running back screen over to that side.
Right.
Let them come through on that side, and then hit the running back over there, or with a ton of free open space. Take whatever the defense gives you. D-Train, hit D-Train on that. Man, 5 seconds, it's going to be a touchdown.
Right. So, yeah, we definitely have to play, I don't want to say on our heels against this defensive scheme, but I feel like this is one of those games where Andy Reid is going to outsmart the defense at the line. and Patrick Mahomes is going to outsmart the defense on the line. And with that being, let's talk about the injuries on the Baltimore Ravens. Tight end Mark Andrews is listed as questionable with a foot injury, but is expected to play. Defensive lineman / fullback Pat Ricard is questionable with a bad back. Cornerback Jimmy Smith is out with a knee injury. And safety Biden Tranwick is out with an elbow injury. So all of those, defensive weapons that they have that are out is that going to help Kansas City? And that's kind of that's a loaded question, and at the same time a dumb question. You put Patrick Mahomes against an injured defense, obviously we're going to come out on top in that scenario every single time.
Yeah. Well, I want to just throw this out there that the injury designation to Mark Andrews really has no bearing at all for this game.
Okay.
He was questionable last week, and he still went out there and had a monster of a game. I kind of expect the same thing to happen again in this game. He's still going to be questionable. He's still going to go out there, and he's going to try to have a big game. I'm going to leave it there. The big injury that I see for the Ravens is missing out on Jimmy Smith. I think that having one less cornerback back in their secondary is going to be ultimately what their rabbit hole that we're going to be able to travel through in order to get to the end zone. Any time that you lose a top cover corner, that's going to be a definite snack for us to be able to munch up the rest of the game.
Absolutely, especially against our pass-heavy offense that is everything that has to do with the arsenal of Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we can not run the ball all game and still win this. We can have 0 rushes in the game and win this game. So, with that being said, hey, Kansas City, we're going to move into halftime of Kingdom Radio.
Kansas City, it is halftime. Thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Radio. We will return momentarily.
All right, welcome back, Kansas City. We're going to get back on this Ravens game because obviously this is the formidable matchup tomorrow, and this is a huge game for Kansas City. Last year's matchup against the Ravens was an amazing game. The Chiefs were down 7 points, and we're facing a 4th and long with 1:29 left in the game. We need to convert in order to have a chance at winning. And even after the snap, it appeared that the game was over. Mahomes rolled to the right to buy some time, and then threw back to his left across his body for a nearly impossible 48-yard completion in wide receiver Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs scored with 53 seconds to go in the game on a touchdown reception by running back Damian Williams to tie the game. They went on to win on a 35-yard field goal by kicker Harrison Butker in overtime. So this year's matchup could prove to be just as close. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson is now in his 2nd year in the league and appears to have improved, especially in the passing game. Couple that with his athletic ability to run, and it will be a paramount for the Chiefs' D to maintain discipline and stick to their individual assignments, which I think that is critical in this game, is us sticking to our assignments, and I touched base on that earlier a little bit. But also, Chris, let's talk about the Ravens' running game. They added running back Mark Ingram. Tell us a little bit about Mark Ingram and what he could possibly do against the Chiefs.
Well, so far Mark Ingram has been averaging about 5 yards a carry. They've got 2 other guys in their backfield that are definitely change of pace backs, are definitely threats to take it to the house anytime that they touch the ball. Mark Ingram wasn't really used very heavily in his previous stop with the New Orleans Saints. So I don't say necessarily he has fresh legs, but they haven't been used up. They don't have a whole lot of tread on them. But what the Ravens typically do So let's throw out the Dolphins, but even against the Cardinals, and because they kind of gave the same look in both games, they're going to give you a look like they're going to be running the ball, but that's not what they're going to do. They're going to throw it. Mm-hmm. They've been a much heavier passing offense, but they're going to give you a lot more running looks.
Right. And honestly, Ingram is a former Heisman Trophy winner, and they really already had an extremely effective running attack, and then you add Ingram to the mix, it only makes them stronger on the ground. So the Chiefs' success Sunday will, like you said, be directly correlated to how well they contain Jackson and Ingram on the ground. And the new Chiefs defensive line will have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ravens' offense has been primarily run through Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. Brown in the game against the Cardinals was targeted 13 times, and Jackson only attempted 37 passes. So essentially 33% of the time that Jackson threw the ball, he's looking at Brown.
Yes, and we're talking about a rookie wide receiver who was impressed early on catching 12 of 18 targets for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns. He absolutely has that home run ability and that knockout speed that could cause matchup issues for the Chiefs' defensive backfield.
Yeah, and the thing that I take away from those two games is that although they're playing inferior defenses, those defenses don't have a second cornerback who can cover the second wide receiver. You look at those games, Willie Snead, who had a huge career when he was with the New Orleans Saints as well. Well, he only has, I think it's like 1 or 2 catches for the season right now. But the Chiefs, on the other hand, we are one of only 2 teams in the entire NFL through week 2 to have multiple cornerbacks with a 70 or higher overall grade with more than 90 snaps played. One of those teams is the Patriots with Jonathan Jones and Jason McCourty and Stephon Gilmore. The other team is the Chiefs with Breeland and Fuller. So I think that our cornerbacks are absolutely up to the task to try to shut down that passing game.
And look, and I love that you brought up that stat because you dug deep for that, and I feel like that here in Kansas City, we need to hear that positive output as far as our defensive backfield is concerned because it seemed to be such a huge question mark over the years. But with that being said, look, we have the consistency on the defensive side. And in the offseason, the Ravens lost some key leaders on the defensive side of the ball, and including top pass rushers Zadarius Smith and Terrell Suggs, obviously a Ravens legend. They also lost their stud linebacker C.J. Mosley in free agency to the New York Jets. So while the linebacker unit has speed, they are still gelling and getting used to life after Mosley. The Chiefs will look to create mismatches, in the flat and on the perimeter to expose the linebackers on the short and intermediate routes and in play action. And I feel like that might be one of the, these might be some of these keys to the game that the Chiefs can hone in on because the Ravens' defense is a lot weaker than they were last season, and I think it's important to touch base on the players that have left, especially Suggs and C.J. Mosley. That is humongous for the Kansas City Chiefs because that's where, like we talked about earlier, Travis Kelce can get open in the flats because they don't have that formidable linebacking core like they've had in years past.
Yeah, and while they have lost their leaders and their big pass rushers, Baltimore's defense is still getting after the quarterbacks. They got 9 quarterback hits against the Cardinals, 3 sacks, one of them coming from the cornerback Brandon Carr. Against Miami in week 1, they had 12 quarterback pressures and had 3 sacks in that game as well. So they're definitely still getting after the quarterback. But again, I'm not trying to be a homer here in saying this, but the Chiefs' offensive line is much better than the Cardinals or the Dolphins. And this is really going to be the Dolphins' first real test of where they're really at.
You mean the Ravens' first? The Ravens. Hold on, brother. The Ravens' first real test. Sorry, I had to correct you there. You said the Dolphins' first test. It's the Ravens' first test.
Wow.
Keep going, though.
Yeah. Sorry, man. It's been a long week.
You're golden, bro. Keep going.
I think that the Ravens are going to be in for a very rude awakening, and I mean, I'm hoping for at least the first half. We have some clear skies, no rain, dry field, and be able to absolutely torch these guys and let them know what they're really in for. Does that necessarily happen? No. And if it doesn't, I feel that our offensive line is going to be able to hold up against that front seven, and Andy Reid is going to be able to outwit Harbaugh and their defensive scheme.
And I think you're absolutely right about that, because we have two coaches who are, I won't want to say, more smart or as smart, as Harbaugh. But, I mean, let's keep it real. They are. But you touch base on our offensive line. And the Ravens' D-line is still pretty solid and well anchored with Mike Pierce, Brandon Williams, and Chris Wormley. And with the injuries to the Chiefs running back by committee, as well as not having left tackle Eric Fisher, it will be an interesting game to see what the Chiefs will do on the ground and how Andy Reid game plans with the personnel he has available tomorrow. It's one of those things that, how will we attack the Ravens defense with what we have lost on the offense? But like you said, that genius mindset of Andy Reid, I don't put anything past him. And anytime you have a player like Patrick Mahomes on the field, you have a chance at a 40-point blowout. So I really think this is going to be a better game than, last season for the Chiefs. Not that could have been any better game ever. That was an epic, epic game and was the best throw I've ever seen by Patrick Mahomes. But I would really love to see it not come down to that tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of segue into something else that's related to that, so far this season, with the Chiefs' offense has been a tale of two halves. Mahomes has thrown for nearly 600 yards in the first halves this season, but only 200 yards in the second half. And the big question I have, or been asking myself, is why? In the second half, the Chiefs have held such a sizable lead that they're willing to shut down the big passing game. Not saying that we haven't seen them take some shots, but we haven't had to go for them as much. But we run the ball down, or we run the ball more in the second half, or even go with the shorter passing game so that we can run down the clock, forces the teams to have to step up their offensive output, which most of these teams that we're going to be facing just don't have the offensive firepower to be able to perform at what we're doing. But then that also helps out our defense, because then we know that they're going to be throwing the ball, and and that's really when we've seen a lot of our sacks come. Chris Jones had one in the first half, but we've had K-Pass had his sack in the second half. But it's also keeping us from putting too much of our offensive plays on tape for other teams to see. And so, Chiefs Kingdom, when you guys are questioning that, keep that in mind. The Chiefs the coaching staff, offense and defense, are still keeping things off of tape. There's things that we're going to be doing throughout the season that we're going to be adding in that we don't want to show everybody ahead of time.
Which I absolutely love about Andy Reid, because let's be honest, there's a handful of coaches out there that stick to the system, and everybody knows what they're going to do. And I'm going to keep it real with you. John Gruden, buddy, you happen to fall on that list, and I really appreciate that, especially being in the AFC West. So I have to say, we talked about their best cornerback, Jimmy Smith, is inactive. So that puts former Chiefs cornerback Brandon Carr on the field to go one-on-one against our guy Patrick Mahomes. So what do you say about a product that the Kansas City Chiefs ultimately crafted and put on the field and let loose in the NFL? Is this guy going to have a productive day against the Chiefs, or are we just going to walk all over Brandon Carr like we typically do? Because didn't he play for the Cowboys as well? And then did he play for the Texans too?
I don't believe he played for the Texans. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure he went from the Cowboys to the Ravens.
Okay. Do you think we're going to torch... Okay, do you think Mahomes is going to torch Brandon Carr in this game?
At some point, I absolutely feel like that he will. He'll catch him. Carr really likes to play looking into the backfield as opposed to playing the receiver and playing the route, which means that he's going to be susceptible to getting beat. And not necessarily beat often, but beat enough times that he's definitely going to have to change how he plays, and he's going to have to play uncomfortable the rest of the game, which ultimately is going to work out for us in the long run.
All right. So, hey, look, before I hop into some details about the weather and what's going on in Jay parking lot and, all this tailgating news, let's go to predictions, Chris. This is something that me and you do every week. I don't want to hop out of this. I want to hear your prediction and what you think is going to happen with this game tomorrow at Arrowhead Stadium. It's not going to be easy. But, Chris, what's your prediction for this huge game tomorrow? Because somebody's going to walk away with one loss, and everybody's undefeated coming into this home opener at Arrowhead Stadium.
Okay, so I saved the best little nugget for last, and this is really the reason why I'm going with the prediction that I am.
Perfect.
So I had to dig deep on this one. So Spagnuolo's defense, when he was with Andy Reid in Philadelphia, when they faced Vic in his prime twice. So these stats are combined over 2 games.
Okay.
They allowed 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 56 yards rushing combined in those 2 games to Michael Vick.
Wow.
And I feel that Spagnuolo certainly has just as talented of a group here with Kansas City that he did with Philly.
Great point.
And I'm going to say that the final score is going to be 35-17 Chiefs.
All right. Hey, no arguments here. I also feel as though this game is probably going to look a lot closer on paper than it was during the game. I'm almost there with you. I'm going to give it 35-21. But I feel like it's going to be 35-14, going into the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, and we're going to let them slide in for a touchdown that made it look closer than it obviously was. So, look, I feel like, just like you, Kansas City is going to walk out of this game with a victory. We're going to go to 3-0. There's no ceiling to the Kansas City Chiefs this year, and especially if we can take it to a team that has really put up great numbers in the first 2 weeks. I feel really fortunate about where we're going, here throughout the season, and I feel like it might be a humongous year for the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the biggest in the franchise history.
No, absolutely. I think it's going to be a definite building block, something we can look back on this season and say that's one of those games. It was one of those situations that gave us the confidence to move forward and move towards this Super Bowl. There's a lot of stuff going on that's got us really excited, but on the field, I think that this is going to definitely be one of those situations where we're going to be looking back and say, that was that moment. Absolutely,
and it is going to be an epic game. Look, the weather isn't going to be the greatest. That's going to be a huge factor. We're going to see how this plays out. Tomorrow's game day weather forecast. Thunderstorms with a 100% chance of rain. Did you hear that, Chiefs Kingdom? A 100% chance of rain. Do not come unprepared. Kickoff temperature is at 72 degrees. This will be a wet game, and it could absolutely affect both teams' passing game and overall offensive strategy. Baltimore appears to have the advantage with a superior running game and with the Chiefs running back injury situation. But Kansas City, Chiefs Kingdom, number one, first and foremost, be sure to pack your poncho because it is going to be a wet game. Also, with the construction that is going down in Kansas City, unfortunately, they could not have picked a worse time to do this ever. It is killing the traffic situation. Go to Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, in so many different ways. It's going to be horrible. Get out there early because it is going to be a pain. With the ongoing construction on I-435 and I-70 interchange, stadium parking lots open at 7 a.m. and all stadium gates open at 10 a.m. But get out there early and Google how you can get to the game because everybody knows, that I-70, 435 interchange, that is right there at the complex. And there's way too much going on right there. Look it up because you could be doing circles for a little bit trying to get into the Chiefs game if you do not do your research. Also, I want to give a shout out to Lot J parking lot. Hey, tomorrow they will set up Tent City. It is going to be raining. So what Tent City is we'll show up early and we'll set up a bunch of tents. So the rain will not affect the tailgate aspect or party in any way, shape, or form because there's going to be about 50 tents set up and everybody is more than welcome to come get some food, come drink, and come party with Lot J tailgating crew. That is the best tailgating crew there at Arrowhead Stadium, and I invite all of you to come out because, hey, Tent City, pouring down rain, hey, we're going to need that. And that's a great aspect of partying and Lot J parking lot. So, on to some more promotional stuff here. I'd like to thank Pizza Shop Platte City, Arrowhead Update, Dylan Humphreys. Thank you to my co-host Chris Chavez, and our senior NFL analyst, the Kingdom Radio crew, and of course, first and foremost, thank you, Chiefs Kingdom. None of this would be possible without each and every one of you. And so, Chris, is there anything that you would like to add before we close out this segment? Because, hey, look, we're on the eve of the home opener, Kansas City, 2019. This is a huge game for Kansas City, maybe one of the biggest home openers in Kansas City Chiefs history. So, Chris, is there anything you'd like to bring to the table before we close out this show tonight?
Two things. Go Chiefs, and this weekend, both Harbaughs lose their games.
I love it. The most important one coming to Arrowhead Stadium. We're going to hand it to the Ravens. I don't question it whatsoever. You give Patrick Mahomes any kind of leeway, we're going to have a 6-touchdown day. And hey, Kansas City, get excited. Home opener, 2019, on the road to the Super Bowl and the Patrick Mahomes era. Could you be any more excited about any other home opener that you have ever attended? If so, comment below. Tell me about it. Tell me about your home opener experience. But until I see that, Kansas City, we will see you tomorrow. Enjoy your evening. Get prepared. Don't drink too much tonight because you've got an early day tomorrow, and we've got to rock it out at Arrowhead Stadium. Let's go, Chiefs. Let's get it on. Let's take it to these Ravens, and let's head on to the Super Bowl. Let's do this Kansas City home opener. Let's start this 2019 season amazing, and let's not ever look back. With that being said, my name is Richard Smith. I'm the host of Kingdom Radio. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Radio, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Chiefs.